I think the public thinks that because we know medicine, because we know dentistry, because we know the things we know, that we're like the healthiest people,
Uh-huh.
right?
As we both laugh because it's the opposite.
Right. Because they think we have the knowledge that we're implementing the things we know for ourselves. When the truth is, we're so overworked that even though we know what to do, we're still not doing it and we're suffering. And that's why I was on the TV channel, the station, to talk about wellness, and advocate for wellness for, female physicians and dentists that are, suffering with not being able to do their self-care and, really take care of themselves because they're putting so much of their energy into their work.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. We have a celebrity here with us today. We have Dr. Dianah Lake, her Dr. Di, Fit Boss Doc, who was recently on, was it DC News Now?
Yes,
And
DC News Now channel
before
in
I share a
Washington,
little,
D.C.
yeah, so before I share a little bit more about your background, share why you're on that channel or on that
Oh
segment.
gosh. So I was actually on, they were doing a health segment. Thanks for having me, first of all. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks for being here.
Um, I was on because they have a health segment that they usually do, topics around health and wellness. So I went on to talk about wellness for female physicians and dentists, right? Female medical professionals, which I thought was something, that would be really good to let the public know about, because we are really kind of unique in our, community as far as how we care for ourselves. I
Mhm.
think the public thinks that because we know medicine, because we know dentistry, because we know the things we know, that we're like the healthiest people,
Uh-huh.
right?
As we both laugh because it's the opposite.
Right. Because they think we have the knowledge that we're implementing the things we know for ourselves. When the truth is, we're so overworked that even though we know what to do, we're still not doing it and we're suffering. And that's why I was on the TV channel, the station, to talk about wellness and advocate for wellness for, female physicians and dentists that are, suffering with not being able to do their self-care and, really take care of themselves because they're putting so much of their energy into their work.
Yeah, it
It was
is.
great.
It's very ironic, and I'm very proud of you. I love that segment, and you did very well. So, of course,
Thank you.
to share with people a little bit who haven't met you yet, you're an emergency medicine physician. I love on your website says mompreneur. You're a mompreneur. You're a fitness coach, a wellness expert, and as you mentioned, you are helping women physicians, dentists, veterinarians, and other professionals who are too busy to take care of themselves yet giving all the energy to take care of others to
Yes.
actually develop a fit life. And we were talking a little bit before we started recording. If people know me, they know that I have a history of eating disorder, so we don't tend to focus on weight. I love that you really focus on the functional piece. You focus on relationship with self, relationship with food, relationships with emotions, relationship with movement, and create
Yes.
something that's grounded in people's why and is sustainable. So I really wanted to send that message of gratitude for all the work that you do and your philosophy and how you do it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yes, and to really give some people some background for why I do it that way is I needed that, right? When I was in my struggles, which was, gosh, 2012 now, I was in the middle of a divorce. My youngest son had just been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. And the older one who had already been diagnosed with ADHD, and I was grieving my dad, who had just passed away from complications of diabetes. So if you can imagine all of that happening together was like the trifecta that just took me out,
Yeah.
right? And I was just in my lowest mental health and emotional health, ever, right? And so for me, I wanted something that would fix me as a human being. Like I wanted something holistic. I didn't want to just focus on the number on the scale, or like, I didn't want to do that. That didn't feel natural and organic to me. I wanted something that would work on my emotional stability, something that would work on my mindset, something that would work on my spirituality. Like I wanted all of it. Maybe I'm greedy.
Holistic, right? Holistic.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, I
balance. Oh,
wanted something holistic. I
yeah.
wanted something that, addressed all of me,
Mm.
if you can, put it that way. I wanted something that addressed all facets of who I am and not just this one little piece. So, because that's what I was looking for myself, and I found that conduit to be fitness, right? I started, really focusing on my fitness, and it brought me so much joy and that endurance after a run, or, like just feeling amazing in my body. So I then started just kind of branching out more and more, wanting to learn. I'm a huge personal development junkie.
Yeah. Yep.
you know, did 2 emotional intelligence coaching programs just to improve me, right? And as I was going through those, you know, traumas that I was having going on at the time. And then I went into bodybuilding, did a competition, doctors how we are. We don't do
Yeah.
like a little bit, right?
Mhm.
We get it and we just like we want to go all the way. And that's what happened to me. So because that worked so well for me, and I just had this light about me. Like, just, I would
Yeah.
walk into the room and people would be like, what happened to you? And they're like, well,
Mhm.
what's going on? And because I had that transformation for myself, I was like, people need this,
That's
right? This is
beautiful,
such
yeah.
a better feeling, to go at it this way than the way that's mass media, like the way it's put out usually, like the common, pathways that are given to you, like, oh, this is how you should do it to get the goals that you want. And that just wasn't working for me.
And I would say it's interesting, and I really loved the light that you exude. It was very attractive the first time I met you. I'm like, "Who the heck is this amazing human? I want more. I want, like, to be around your energy, your aura," and I definitely felt that vibe when you walk in. I'm like, "Amazing woman." And interestingly enough, that people will chase the weight loss thinking that that's gonna help them with the self-esteem when that dumps, but really our diet culture is oppressive, and it caters on your shaming of yourself. Right? So it can
Yes,
actually make you feel worse, and then people isolate because they feel worse and they're picking apart their body. And he gets into this perfect storm of taking that really challenging experience that you're having with all those things happening at once and like kicking yourself when you're down. And people
yes,
are fed that this is going to make you feel better. But no, it's just going to give the money to the people who are profiting off of that vulnerability and insecurity.
absolutely. Absolutely. And you end up in a deeper hole because that beration, like you have that self berating thing going on, and the negative, self talk and the inner critic things and all of that going on. And usually when I work with people, that's the first thing we untrain and
Mhm.
unlearn. And,
Yeah.
it's just unlearning that way of being because it's not serving you, right? It's not
Yeah.
serving you to be in this negative energy all day. So when you start practicing 20 wins a day, people
Mm.
are so nervous when I tell them this. You're going to practice 20 wins a day. They're like, 20 wins? That's a lot. I'm like, okay, let me show you how easy this is.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very simple. I got my son to school on time. That's a win. I did my gratitude practice this morning. That's a win. I made up my bed. That's a win. I had a high protein breakfast. That's a win. I had 10 ounces of water. That's a win. Before 9 o'clock, I've got 5 wins,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
you see how easy that is when you shift your thinking to positivity, to what's working. How can I do this? What's possible for me? You know what I mean? So, unlearning the behavior of focusing on what didn't work,
Mm.
because we do that a lot.
Yeah.
What's not working, right? When we just go down that spiral and then we just eat to satisfy that negative energy that we've created. We created that, right? And then we
Yeah.
want to soothe. And so we eat. And, it just kind of perpetuates the whole, downward spiral. So most times I want to untrain people, have them, basically unlearn the practices they've been doing for like 40 years,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is which is scary. You're like, but
Yeah.
you can do it. I did it. Many people I've worked with have done it. And it's just unlearning practices that no longer serve you. or it's never served you in the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah.
And I went to your open house, which was so much fun. And there was both myself and other people there, right? It was really fun and amazing. And for the people just to be inclusive when it comes to the emotional reaction towards feeling down about yourself. Like some people use food to cope, some people use avoidance of food to cope. And mine was the avoidance of food to cope, which also wasn't serving me, but shared.
Hmm.
Like I feel like our weight stigma shames more if you are an overeater than an undereater, and both are very detrimental.
Absolutely.
And so I just loved how your philosophy, the 20 wins, and I will challenge people, don't include anything that includes the scale on that for the wins. And when people come to
Right.
Dr. Di, Fit Boss Doc, they might come with that goal for, I said for this channel, I can't have that as a primary goal for our audience, but, and people will come with that goal, and that's absolutely fine if that's appropriate for you. But I will challenge you because you, the audience, you already know because you're the expert. But for those 20 wins, like non-scale wins, because with those fluctuations in weight, especially we'll share a little bit more about expected fluctuation in weight, which is for everybody, but especially during hormonal fluctuations whether it
Yes.
be adolescents when they're going through puberty or
Hmm.
during perimenopause and menopause, like that's
Absolutely.
expected. And the best thing you can do from my perspective is like self-compassion, allow, and try to learn to be comfortable with that process and not criticize and pick apart every aspect of your body.
I agree. And I think the other thing I would add to that is even for the people who come in and they're really focused on the scale or whatever that number is for them that they want to see, I tell them, look, the way we're going to do this, I tell them, this is how we're going to do this, right? This is how we're going to do this. We're going to work on you as a human being.
Mm.
We're
Mhm.
going to work on your mindset because there's a lot going on with the way you think of yourself, your self identity, the conversations you're having with yourself, your emotions, your thoughts, how they're leading to your actions. We're going to work on all of that.
Mhm.
Right? We're going to work on your mental health. We're going to work on your self care practice. You may not even have a self care practice right now. Right. Yesterday, Dr. Heidi and I went to get our feet done for 90
Nice.
minutes. We did a
Yeah.
90 minutes reflexology. It was amazing. And that's self-care, right? And two, physician moms took a day to go and take care of themselves.
Beautiful.
Had no food there. We went, we chatted on the table. We had our back massage, feet done, hung out, chatted. That was it. That can be self-care. It doesn't have to have any food, because we do a lot of celebratory, eating that may not even be necessary.
Mhm.
Right. So
Mhm.
I teach them how to go about life and serve themselves where food is not the center of everything.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just a
Mhm.
different way of being because the way our society's set up, every holiday is related to food. Right.
It's
Or
related,
alcohol.
yeah, it's related to food with the paired food guilt, right? It sets you up
Yes.
for this, I'm either gonna enjoy the food and then figure out how I'm gonna burn it out or feel guilty, but that I enjoyed the food. And really those holidays are meant to be for community and connection. And when you are
Yes.
so focused on the obsession with food, it actually disconnects. Like for me personally,
Yes.
holidays are really hard because they are so food focused. And as somebody that it has the eating disorder just takes over so much of my brain at times. It really pushed me to observe and reframe what holidays meant for me. And it's very much in alignment with what you just said. What am I here for? Like, what really
Yes.
matters at this time? Are people really going to be focusing on my body? And if you do have family that focuses on the body like mine does, that I don't want to discount the fact that that could be a true thing that happens. But what narrative do you want to claim? What boundaries do you need to set in order to honor what's most important to you during that holiday? And n- I think it's really essential, and you do this well and help people to really tune into their authentic why. But
Mhm.
from societal standpoint, they'll give us a whole bunch of things that we should want out of a holiday, that we should be valuing at a holiday, and like take a step back and audit that. I'd love to hear how
Yes.
you help people differentiate the voices from society versus their own internal voice.
Yes, yes, and we do this thing, "What do you want?" Right? So when I first meet them, the people I work with, I ask them, I think we did it during the open house. I don't know if you were there for that one. Maybe it was the one that you weren't on, but we did a short, what do you want exercise during the open house? Instead of 7 things, people came up with 3 things just for the sake of time.
Yeah.
But adults aren't walking around and having people ask them genuinely what they want.
Mm.
No one comes to you and say, what do you really want, Julian?
Yeah. And
Right?
like, and do you, your top answer, your instantaneous answer, I would really sit with it and say, is it true?
Right. Right. Like, what do you want? And
Mhm.
a lot of times they want more energy.
Um,
They want to sleep better, right? They want to play with their kids and not be exasperated after 5 minutes. They want to be able to reach their feet and tie their shoes,
mhm.
functional things. Like, so when you really think about it, it's like, okay, so those are the things that matter to you, right? Let's get you functional to be able to do these things, right? And you're
Mhm.
going to have a lot of other benefits that come with it. But let's focus on what you truly want.
Yeah.
Because that's when you get that, that's going to make you the happiest, right? That's going to bring you the joy, the satisfaction, the confidence, all the things that you feel you're lacking right now, or in the gap, right? Of filling that gap with the implementation, the strategies we're going to give you, implementing those things. And now you can take these tools with you forever. It's not a fad. It's not a hack. It's not a, oh, get, fit quick scheme. It's living a different way,
Mhm.
right? And having different, interpretations of things. Now, what do you make this mean for you, right? Change your narrative of what this means so that it serves you, so that you show up powerfully, you show up confidently, and you trust yourself in the process. You learn to trust yourself as you keep staying in integrity with your word. Actually, we're going to be doing a training on integrity with your word on Monday in my group, in my fitness accountability group. But staying in integrity with your word and showing how strong you are, keep proving that to yourself through the practices and exercises we're going to be doing. And all those little things that you thought were issues, you're like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I can do this long term, right? Because sustainability is another thing. We don't want a quick fix. We want something we can do for life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so that's what we're learning and we're teaching so that they have tools that they can use, give it to the children. That's the other thing. The ripple effect of what you learn, other people around you get to benefit from it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and the counter to that too is that when we, a lot of our own beliefs about body and food, and it comes from our parents or our family members as
Yes.
well. So it's like the cost of not doing this work is you're handing down those things, right? You can hand
To
down,
your kids.
yeah, the
Absolutely.
positive relationships, or you hand down that negative relationships. And it's beautiful that you really showcased how that ripple effect looks like. And
Mhm.
what obstacles do you hear people coming into? Like, what are the kind of stuck points that seem to be quite a theme?
Mm, I don't have time.
Mm,
I said, really? You don't? And when I say it, they think I'm being condescending, but I'm not. And I said, okay, well, let's do an audit, right? You know me and my audits. I love doing
yeah.
these audits,
Yeah.
right? And because
Hmm.
the audit really allows you to be honest with yourself and say, where am I on this spectrum of managing myself, right? Because the time thing is really managing you.
Hmm.
The time doesn't change. 24 hours is always 24 hours in a day, right? So when we say we don't have time, then it's like you have 24 hours every day. So the time is there. How are you choosing to prioritize the usage of that time is what we're really talking about, right? So how do you show up in your day? Where is the time going? So then we do an audit. And then I said, okay, if you're doing social media stuff for 3 hours out of the day and your phone is telling you your screen time, right? You don't want
Yeah.
to
I
see
don't
the
know
screen
what you're talking about at all.
time. So, right.
Yeah.
I said, okay, is it possible? I
Yeah.
always like to say, is it possible? Because I know it is. Is it
Yeah.
possible that maybe you can watch your favorite show while you're on the elliptical? Is it possible that we can sort of retrain how you're using your time? Because trust me, the time is there. It's just, am I making this a priority on my calendar? Is it
Mhm.
even on the calendar? Right? Because if you have a kid and your kid has a dental appointment, you put it on the calendar, right? If you have to work a shift, you put that on the calendar.
Yep.
Where's your self care on the calendar? Where's your meal prepping on the calendar? Where's your time? I literally schedule my sleep sometimes. Like when I do night shifts,
Yeah.
I literally will put the sleep time on my calendar so people don't book it, right? Because if it's just open, somebody could book an appointment when I'm sleeping.
Mhm. Yep.
Right? So I literally put on my calendar this is sleep time, right? So that that space is protected for me, right? So that's the question. Where is your protected time for your needs, for your mental health, for
Mhm.
your gratitude practice, for your meals, your movement, your meditation, all the things you say, oh, it would be great if I could do that. Yes, it would be great. But how is it going to happen? You get to create it. We're creators.
Mhm.
We create whatever we want.
Yep. And for that chunk of prioritizing time, and tell me where this shows up and how and if. I'm anticipating it does because it's a common theme that comes from socialized women in our country, is that I have the time, but they keep bumping themselves down in the priority. So when they create the time, it's flexible, right? Like if you have sleep down time boundaries, no one can touch it. But
Yes,
for people who
that's
have,
it.
right? For people who have, oh, I'm just going to pencil in this time that I'm going to do my self care. But then someone needs something. Well, I can chip. This is actually really true for me. So I'll share my example at work is I have all these projects. I have two that are mine. I lead them. But anytime someone asks me for help, I abandon my project in order to help them get it turned around on time. Mostly because it's in my head. I want to make sure I'm not their limiting rate factor. But then my stuff never gets done and it's just always heavy on my mind. And how often does that show up in work? Taking care of yourself in all the fitness measures, or just every aspect of our life. And it just beats us into exhaustion. And then we think that we need to keep giving. And it's this endless cycle. So I would challenge people, and I'd love to hear for you, how it's been showing up with either yourself and your coaching clients is that if it's like a blind spot or an obstacle that they haven't been hurdling before they're coming to you is like, can't put myself first. I feel guilty about it.
Yes. So we talk about the guilt. We talk about mommy guilt. So because a lot of the women I work with are moms. Not everybody's a mom, but I would say probably 80% are moms, right? So the mommy guilt of, and I say this to my clients a lot, especially the ones that time is an issue for them. I say, how many times have you rushed through traffic to get to your kids', recital on time? I mean, we're like mad people, right? I gotta be there.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous.
Mhm.
I gotta be there. And I'm like, so why is it that your needs aren't that important or equally important or more important? Because if you really think about it, if you ended up in the hospital ill, who suffers?
Yeah, everybody.
Right?
Everybody that
Everyone who
everyone that
needs
you
you,
Mhm.
everyone who's in your circle. Now you're not there for the kids. Right? So we run to do the things for our kids. We run to do the things for family, right? For colleagues. Because we have this guilt about if I don't show up for them, I look bad, right? So we want to be perfect for them,
Yeah.
for that persona to keep being good, right?
Mhm.
But then for ourselves, because it's for us, almost it's like I can manage not having integrity with myself,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And it's like you wouldn't want to break integrity with other people, even your kids, but you're willing to break integrity with yourself. That's where your doubt comes from that you can't do this work because you've kind of failed yourself so many times by putting yourself lower and lower and lower on the priority list that you don't trust that you can do it. So we get to work on you trusting you again, right? And it
Yeah.
starts with with counting your wins. It starts with every time that self-sabotaging behavior you do shows up, you call yourself out. Oh, Diana, there it is again. Right? You call yourself out and you get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? You get comfortable being in that situation where you know you've been the source of this sabotage. And you start owning your stuff. I was going to say
Yeah.
something else.
Well, you could if you wanted to. If it's authentic to you, the words can come out as they are.
No, but you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
start owning these things that are happening that you are at the center of, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the only way you're going to get those results that you want is you get to be someone else, a different version of you to hit the goal that you want. The current version of you has not done it, right? So
Yeah.
something within you, whether it's mindset shifts, whether it's implementation, accountability, something has to change within who you are being, right? Your ways of being get to change to fill that gap between where you are and where you're trying to go. That's where the transformation happens. It's when within making those changes. And so once they get that, they're like, oh wow, holy crap. I need to put my self-care on the calendar. And it's not something I can cancel. It's
Hard
a
boundaries.
non-negotiable. It's on there, it's locked in. Just like I would not call my kid's dentist and just cancel because somebody at work wants me to do something. No.
Mhm.
If somebody at work wants you to do something, you have your kid going to the dentist. Oh, I can't do it. I'm not available. I'm not available. It's like my favorite thing to say.
Well, now I'll know next time I ask you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not available. It is
I'm
such a,
not available.
it's a
I
life
don't need
lesson,
to
right?
explain to you why.
Okay, let's repeat that. So important. So can you repeat it, please? Absorb
I
this.
just say I'm not available and I don't have to explain why I'm not.
That
It's a
is
complete sentence and that's it.
the it's so fascinating because a lot of us do start to give more information than we need to. It's this justification within our own self. We want to still look like a team player. I'm doing a lot of work on worthiness because feeling unworthy is a core pain point for many of us, and
Mhm.
including myself. And I feel that we often give and we put our own meaning in serving other people as a way to feel worthy. And if we could truly absorb that we are worthy as humans that breathe and exist, then sacrificing ourselves in order to get that sense of worthiness from the way that we're serving others can lessen. I've
Yes. That whole
most,
martyrdom. Yeah. Like
yeah,
you've got to,
exactly.
be a martyr to be valuable, to be worthy. And that whole thinking, it's just not serving you.
Yeah, it's not
Because at the
serving
end of the day,
anybody, right?
yeah,
Not
at the
serving
end of the
anybody.
day, you are depleted
Yeah,
and you're even resentful,
yeah,
right? Because at
mhm,
the end, you're like, I still didn't get to do my stuff,
yeah,
right? And now you're feeling upset. If you can truly name what the emotion is, you're upset, you're disappointed, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're resentful that you did all of this giving,
mhm,
which at the time felt good because you felt like you were serving others, but to what end? Right?
yeah,
Only for you to end up feeling I still am in the same spot I was 6 months ago because I have not focused on my own needs. Right. And this other thing I usually will tell my clients, and I love that they're mostly doctors because they get this. And I usually say, what does the heart do when blood leaves the aorta? It serves itself
yeah,
first.
mhm,
The first arteries that come off the root of the aorta supplies the heart muscle, the coronary arteries. You have your left and right main, right, that come off the heart, right off the root of the aorta. As soon as the oxygenated blood comes out, the very first oxygenated blood goes to serve the heart first, because the heart is what's pumping oxygen to the whole body. So if it doesn't serve itself first, it's going to fail.
yeah,
It can't keep doing what it's supposed to do. Imagine how hard the heart works. Like, we don't even think about it. It's beating like 70, 80 times a minute forever. Imagine if you had to keep opening a door, right? 70 times a minute, your arm would like be dead after 10 minutes, right? That heart is going and pumping and pumping and pumping 70, 80 times a minute all day long. And it's giving a lot away. It's oxygenating your brain, your lungs, your bowel, your kidneys, your nerves. It's oxygenating this whole specimen of a human being. But how does it do it? It first feeds itself. That analogy for me is like gold.
Yeah.
Because if you're not feeding yourself first and you're depleted, anything you're giving is coming from a depleted place.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Anything you're putting outward, you may feel like, okay, I'm doing this great job of, being altruistic or whatever you want to call it, but you are suffering because you're not getting filled first. So when you start from a full place, and I think I said that on the interview, when you start from a full place, the TV segment I did the other day, you are a better clinician,
Yeah.
right? You're not showing up fatigued and exhausted and overwhelmed and stressed and burnt out because you're caring for you first. Everyone gets the remainder, right? And so you're showing up fully and powerfully. And the version of you that is, oh my God.
Yep.
That's why when you walk in the room, people are like, who the heck is that?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and even that, so you're gonna have the people that support that, that wanna, like, "I'm gonna drink whatever Kool-Aid she's drinking," right, and get around her, that love the vibes, that we have a really good community we just came from at an Emerge conference where we love to see everyone succeed, like, there's an abundance of success. You succeeding
Yes,
makes me happy. I'll clap for you. You'll clap for me. We clap
absolutely.
for each other. There is this culture that when people see other people succeeding, especially a woman who has a very strong presence, there are going to be people who want to push you down, who are, and this, if you expect it, then you're like, oh, you get curious. And when it happens, when you set the boundaries, someone's mad. I wonder how they were benefiting off of your lack of boundaries. If you
Mm,
show up confident, well, some people are going to get tiffed because they're threatened by your presence. And to expect that and to still remain true to yourself. I love the book, The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. It's all about living your authentic self, your authentic truth. And when we abandon ourselves to serve other people and to meet these societal expectations that are not true to ourselves, we feel sick.
yes, yes, absolutely. And I think that's the other piece is checking in, right? We do like a midweek check-in. Like there's this thing in my program, it's like a little prompt that comes up in the group. Every Wednesday, it says, midweek check-in. What's working for you this week? What's not working for you this week?
Mm.
Right? So you get to check in with yourself. I have all these little prompts in there for different days of the week to kind of keep them, on track, just emotionally and connected to what they're supposed to be doing. Right. And so when you have that check in for the authenticity piece, right? How does this make me feel?
Mhm.
By me serving these people and not making my needs first priority, how am I truly feeling at the end of the day? Right? Do I feel joy? What is the feeling that I'm getting from this work I'm doing? Because if it's not giving you the joy, then, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of the ikigai.
Yeah. But explain
Yeah,
it to our audience. Yeah. Explain it to our
right.
audience.
Listen, I learned about the ikigai years ago in a coaching program. I told you I'm a, personal development geek.
Yeah, I love it.
Probably like 2017, I learned about the ikigai, which is a Japanese principle of basically finding the things that you're really good at doing, right? You're really good at doing, you're proficient at doing these skills, but they also pay you, you get a good compensation for it. It doesn't have to be money, right? It could be the joy you get from it. You're getting well compensated for skills you're very proficient at, and those skills also give back to the world,
Mm.
right? That's the full circle of the ikigai. It's basically finding your purpose in what you do that you enjoy doing, you're passionate about. You would do it for free, probably, because
Yep.
you're just so connected to it, but it also pays you well and it gives immensely to the community.
Mm,
That thing for me is fitness.
yeah. And how attract like, you can tell you're passionate about it, right? Because you are investing all of your time and energy in it, and it feels very authentic, right? You just can't wait to share, as you said in the beginning, I can't wait to share this information because it helped me so much that it would be detrimental to not pay it forward and help others.
Yes, yes, yes. So when you're checking in with yourself, whatever your goal is on your wellness journey, if the self-care piece, taking care of your meals, your movement, managing your mood, your thoughts, right? Your feelings, all those things. If you're not having a practice where you're checking in with yourself, then it's like the world can be so distracting that you're
Mm,
just out there. Like,
mhm,
so if you have a practice where even if it's at the end of the day, I have this thing on my phone. The morning one says, "What are you grateful for?" It comes up at 8:15 every morning. And when I'm driving my son to school, it pops up on the dashboard. So he's used to
oh,
it now. So as soon as it pops up, he's like, okay, I'm
mm,
grateful for a great breakfast. I'm grateful I'm
aw,
getting to school on time. I'm grateful, right? He goes through this whole thing and we do it every morning. At the end of the day, around maybe 10 p.m., another little appointment I have with myself pops up on my screen and it says, what worked today? What didn't work today?
mm,
It gives me that mindful moment to think about my day and say, how did I show up today? And honestly ask myself that question and check in. What did I do well? What didn't go well? And why? And the things that went well, why did that happen? How did I create that? How
mhm,
did I source that?
mhm,
Right? So that checking in needs to be daily. That's a way to stay authentic to you, is checking in and seeing whether the way you're showing up, because the only thing you can control is yourself, right?
yeah,
So the way you're showing up, the way you're setting boundaries, the way you're managing yourself within your 24 hours, all these things, are they congruent and in alignment with what you truly want? I'm coming
mm.
back to what you want again.
Yeah, I was there for the what you want, and I also am thinking of the value of saying this out loud to you. You're a coach, because if we are in this lens where we have low self-worth and low self-compassion, what we could do is pick apart everything that didn't go well that day and then use it against ourselves. But if I'm telling you
Absolutely.
what went well and what didn't go well with you, then you are able to give me a different perspective. Like, did it really not go well? And if it didn't go well, what did you learn from it? Using a
Yes.
place of non-judgmental curiosity grounded in self-compassion. I say
Yes.
that because as self-development junkies, both of us, we could constantly pick on things that aren't good in our life to improve them without appreciating. And I love that you do that gratitude practice without appreciating what we have right now.
What's actually working? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, you get to learn that so much of my life is working.
Mm,
And I need to pat myself on the back because that's the other thing. We shun away the the things that are working or minimize them because we're like, oh, but we're supposed to be doing that. Okay, maybe you think you're supposed to be doing it, but it's freaking awesome that you did. You know what I mean? Let's just like live there for a moment, right? It's freaking
Yeah.
awesome that you did that, even though you're saying, but you're supposed to, sure,
Yeah.
but that's great that you were able to do that
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
celebrate those wins.
Yeah.
We are celebrating wins all the time. So it helps with the inner critic voice, right? When you're focusing on the things that are working and you're saying, look, my life is not that horrible. There are people out in the world with no food to eat. Come on. If you
Yeah.
really put things in perspective, I'm doing a freaking great job.
Yep. And you looking at you in your life, because what I was hearing that wasn't said is, I did that, but Dr. Di did it better, right? Is the instant comparison
Oh
was,
gosh, the
oh my
comparison.
gosh,
Yes.
I did dental school and medicine, but I wasn't number one and I didn't get the top scores on my USMLE. Or there's always a deficit that we could create in
You
our
can
mind.
right, you can
It's
take
like,
your
oh
like,
my
derail you.
gosh, I'm
Yes,
so well trained in that. And just to appreciate what is and the uniqueness of what you have to offer. Like no one on this planet
yes,
is close to being you. You are the only one. And I think that is miraculous. It's
yes,
super cool.
absolutely. And it's just it's truly an unlearning.
Yeah.
It truly is an unlearning process when you do coaching. And coaching has been amazing for where I bring getting me where I am now. Like I was telling you that I went through a divorce. I did 2.5 years of therapy, which made some improvement. But when I started doing work on emotional intelligence and coaching and really, going multiple levels down, and having group coaching helps too, because you get to hear other people's experiences and you're like, oh, I'm not the only one, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yes.
it just affirms that you are doing a great job. So many other people have these issues as well. And you get to do the transformation together. You get to support each other. You get to elevate each other. You get to feel supported and loved, right? That's a whole separate conversation.
Yeah.
Accepting the love, accepting the support,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think when you unlearn all of those things from childhood, or that the society is just throwing at you, and you start to have your own beliefs, your own thoughts, your own interpretations, your own meaning for things that are valuable to you and how you choose to live, game changer,
Yeah. I
you know?
value, yeah, that safe container that you create when you are leading your group coaching sessions, right? And I love the prompts that you put in there too. It's like, wow, that really is a mindset shift. But we need, because we can have groups and you could start to compare again, but this container is that common humanity coming in with the kindness, coming there to support each other. So I
Yes.
I'm curious what you notice, give a little snapshot, but for people who are skeptical on coaching, which I was actually, I almost, when I was looking into life coaching, I kind of had to do it in secret because my family's like, what the hell is a life coach? And I was like, well, I don't know, but I had been in therapy for years and I was like, therapy is great. It wasn't getting me in the driver's seat of my own life. So I'm curious what you really noticed is the difference between therapy and coaching and
Oh
how
my
it
gosh,
impacted you.
great question. So for me, my first experience with coaching was 2019. I had a business coach who was just so spot on. And I mean, she was highly productive and she could get so much done in a short amount of time. And I was just like, how did you get like this? I
Yeah.
was like, I want this. How did you get like this? I feel like I'm so scattered and disorganized. How did you get like this? She was like, I did a coaching program. And I was like, I want to know about this program.
Mm.
So she tells me about the program. And I go and I'm on the site, and I'm just one of those people. I would get the biggest package. I don't want the
Yeah.
beginner. Give me the whole thing. So I signed up for the whole package they had with the discovery weekend, the breakthrough weekend, the 3 month intensive. I did the whole thing. I was like, I want this way of being that she has.
Mm.
So I went in there, and it was a hybrid of one-on-one and group. And it was live. This was
Wow.
pre-COVID. So I had to
Wow.
drive to Philly from Maryland for a 4-day weekend. This
Oh
was
my
an
goodness.
investment,
Yeah.
right? This is how
Yeah.
invested I was in wanting this change.
Mm.
And I went to Philly for 4 days. We had group sessions that were immersive. Like you had to do things in person with another partner, all these practices. They had you do exercises. So I was like, wow. After that first 4-day weekend, I sat in my car for like an hour. My mom called me. She was like, aren't you done? Because I stayed at my mom's house. She lives in Philly. She was like, aren't you done? And I was just processing.
Mm.
I was just sitting in my car processing the 4 days. And I was like, holy crap. So much happened in coaching that allowed me to feel so free and liberated to share what was going on with me because other people were sharing.
Yeah.
The whole space felt very safe.
Mm.
People were crying and bawling their eyes out. I mean, it was cathartic. In those 4 days of getting coached, I had so much more transformation than the 2.5 years of therapy.
Mm.
And that's why I was sitting there like, I
Yeah. Wow.
was just like, my goodness, wow. So much came out of me that I didn't even know was there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
things that I thought I managed in therapy came up again.
Mm.
And I got to work on it with other people. I got to hear their stories. I got to hear how they got coached.
Yeah.
And I learned from their coaching, right? From
Mm.
hearing them being coached. And I thought to myself, how can I apply that to my life? That's why my own program is set up to be group and individual coaching, because I saw the benefit of other people being coached and learning from that. So I want the people who work with me to get that same benefit. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's all about paying it forward for me.
Yeah.
It's like, if it worked for me, I'm telling you about it.
It's true. Yeah. I value the group coaching too. And I always tell clients, there's a lot come up with coaching because your stuck points come from a deeper, origin. And oftentimes it's good to have both therapy and coaching at the same time. And I share your perspective in that when coaching for me took the things we went through, showed how many other people did, and it didn't pathologize it. And again, there's a time and place, and there's that nuance between therapy and coaching. And there are times when, like, if you're not functioning, that's therapy. Like, it's that times of support. But I found that it was such a paradigm shift when I was like, oh, well, I'm depressed in surgery because I'm not eating well, sleeping well. Exactly what you all covered. I was just pouring all my energy outward and I wasn't even doing what I wanted to do. So, of course, I feel this way. Like, if I
Yes.
wasn't feeling this way, that's the pathology. But I had thought I was broken, that I was the problem, that
Mm,
I was unworthy, that I didn't become this Air Force oral surgeon that I set out to become, and therefore I am nothing. And it was, I believe that deeply. For, after I left surgery, it took me about 5 years where I just was in survival mode, living under a rock. And I joined coaching out of desperation.
mm.
And I'm just grateful that you showcase well the transformation created your own life. And I resonate a lot with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, both are important. I think at the time when I did therapy, I didn't know anything about coaching then, and it was a lifeline.
Mm,
It was someone to talk to about what was happening with me and to get some practical things to do every time,
yeah.
right? After every session. But I think with coaching, the immersion is
Yeah.
so intense and you're doing it with other people, and that vulnerability. I think sometimes when I was in therapy, I felt like she was just looking at me.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, I totally agree with that. I actually have a therapist now who
Was
shares
in a
more.
fishbowl, and it
Yeah.
was just me talking, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, should I say that or not?" You
Yeah,
know?
oh my gosh, I totally relate to that. Yeah, I have thankfully,
Yeah.
I have a therapist now who's a little bit more, she relates to me in some, and it, like, at first I'm like, "Oh, are you allowed to relate to me that much?" But, but she was showing how she overcame things, and I find myself at first I'm like, "Oh, that's different," because usually we're taught not to share about ourselves. And then I was like, but that's actually what built my trust and rapport with this person. Therefore, if I was actually have a crisis, I would actually tell her. Whereas I wouldn't have told another mental health professional because I'm like, you're judging me.
Right,
You're like, I don't trust that you actually
right.
are going to support me. I think you're just going to send me to the emergency room. And then I would meet Dr. Di and she'd be like, you don't need to be here. No, it's not, you know what I mean? I would love
No,
to see
but
you in the emergency room,
seriously,
but not get locked up, right? For things that maybe we could have worked out in like a discussion where people aren't, abandoning you because they're afraid to have these real discussions.
yes. And so I think that's a big, like differentiator for me, is that the coaching environment feels more relaxed to me to be able to open up. I feel that I can be vulnerable because everyone here has the same goal. We're all wanting to be healthy. We all, we're kind of in this journey together, and so I just love it. It's been an amazing transformation for my own life, for my ability to mother my children, for dating,
Mm,
for, I mean, coaching the clients that I coach, seeing them from when they started to where they are, when they're done, even before they're done, in the midst of it, they're like, oh my God, this person complimented me on my posture.
Wow,
One of
nice.
my cardiologist clients, she was like, she complimented me on my posture. I said, it's because I'm doing strength training and I'm doing, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like the little things, that people notice when you start to do this work for yourself. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm grateful to be the conduit to bring it to people.
And I find, in the beginning, you were talking about some transitional things that happen, some catalytic events. And I find coaching is great for transitional times of our life. And we're talking about, tangible transitions when it comes to life events, but then, of course, just the health transitions. We touched a little bit base on going from adolescence to puberty to then going through perimenopause. And I would love how you support people that are having experience with all different kinds of life transitions, especially work around perimenopause.
Yes, yes, yes. So I actually came into working with people with perimenopause 2018, 2019. And a lot of the women that I work with are in the 40s, some are in the 50s. I even have some in their mid 60s, right? So for the late 40s, early 50s women, they're going through hormonal changes. They're having a lot of bloating. Having a lot of, sort of mid body, their hips, their tummy, that whole area. They're feeling very full there. And some of them, that's new for them. They've gone their whole lives being really fit in their bodies, and now their body's changing. And they're like, I do all these things, nothing's working. Right. So I was like, okay, there's a subset of women that this is an issue for. And I went to one of my personal development conferences I went to was a business conference. I ran into a functional medicine physician in his 80s who was actually thinking about retiring. And so he was basically doing this program to teach other people how to manage these women, that have this issue. So I did his program. And I was like, okay, this fits in with what I do because there's a good portion of women that are going to be in their 40s and 50s that are going to have perimenopausal symptoms. And the ones that are in their 50s to 60s who may have menopausal symptoms, they also need to feel healthy in their body. They also need to understand why it's going on. They need to understand what options they have, what opportunities are there for them to feel vibrant again.
Mm.
So that's why I added that piece into the work that I do, because I also was coming up on, I'm 49 and I was coming into my, late 40s and having perimenopausal symptoms. So it was kind of selfish. I wanted to know what I could do for me from a holistic, standpoint. How can I treat my body and, accept some of these things that are happening, but see what's available to me, right? To live and feel happy in the body I have and see what I can do, what's possible. So that's what brought me into doing menopause wellness. And it was more for my own edification. And then seeing that people that I was working with already had that need, and so I started to provide that service for them as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm grateful that you do that because that's a lot of times our sexuality. I listened to Dr. Kelly Casperson as well, and it feels like because sexuality for women is really not discussed or normalized, it's kind of taboo in our
Yes.
society. Is
Yes.
really just appreciating and respecting the human body and learning how to
Hmm.
work with it. Like when you learn how to work with your body, how much stress does that relieve? Right? It stops
Oh my
fighting
God. And
against.
then again, the self-compassion,
Yeah.
right? This is not your fault that your hormones are going awry, right?
Yeah.
It's just a natural process of life,
Mm.
right? This is what happens in our bodies when we get to this stage. So understanding the pathophysiology, I think, is great for women to understand. Some women actually have a higher amount of estrogen just naturally. So when they go into menopause, their symptoms will be different. Because some people come to me, my girlfriend is 55, she doesn't have this problem.
Comparison. Stop it,
Right. And
guys.
I'm
Stop
like,
it.
hold on.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
and then I educate them on how we all have different levels of that we begin with in our puberty of ratio of estrogen to progesterone. And depending on that ratio, you might be the one that has more of the mood symptoms. The
Mm.
other person might be more of the one that has the mental fog and the sleep issues and the hot flashes. So don't say, oh, this person doesn't have the symptoms that I have. This is not a equal opportunity situation. So the comparison doesn't help. It just
Yeah.
frustrates you even more. But once they're educated on what this is that's happening in their bodies and
Yeah.
how they can use anti-inflammatory foods to support their nourishment and how they can use strength training and all the things that they can use that they have control over because they feel out of control. That's really the thing.
Yep.
They feel crazy. They feel like what's happening in my body? This is not who I am. I want this like gone. Right. So when you educate them on what's happening on a chemical level
Yeah.
and you show them how they do have power and control of certain things and they can implement those things, then it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. Wow.
But a lot of times is not knowing
Mm.
what's available to you, not knowing what your options are, feeling powerless because maybe your mother or grandmother didn't know either and you saw them suffer. So you think that's just the way it goes. You just have to suffer when you don't.
You don't have to suffer, and suffering is not a badge of honor to wear around.
No, it's not. Not at all.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your mission and your enthusiasm. And of course, I'd love to kind of highlight what are the main takeaways that you want the audience to have for today.
Great question. I think one thing to take away is you are so enough,
Mm.
right? Where you are right now. I even have a band on that says I'm enough. This
Ah,
little thing here. I
nice,
wear it every day. I've been wearing it. I got it as a gift from Dr. Sharita. I
nice.
was at her conference. She had a retreat, and I was one of her speakers, and I did the workouts for that retreat. And she gave these little bracelets as a gift. And I'm a gift person. I love little gifts. And
Mm,
so I've worn this literally for over a year, every single day.
wow, love it.
Right? I don't take it off. I shower with it.
Nice.
And it says I'm enough. And I love it because we really are. Do we have things we can improve on? Absolutely. Right? But it doesn't define who we are. We're powerful, we're beautiful, we're magnificent creatures in our own right today, as we are. And we get to do the things we want to improve on because we have the opportunity and the potential to be a better version of ourselves. And that's totally okay. But, we shouldn't feel somehow deficient because we haven't hit that goal yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say.
I love it. I'm reading the book Letting Go, and there's a quote that's something like you can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
duality of it is beautiful. You get to accept that you are total badass
Hmm.
because we've accomplished a lot more than probably 80% of people on the planet will ever accomplish in their lives. Yet we feel somehow deficient,
Hmm.
which is crazy. Right? It's
Yep.
crazy. Most people would kill to have the accomplishments we have. So let's honor that and see how powerful and amazing we are and still get to do the work that we want to do.
I'm going to take a
Both can be
moment to
true.
breathe that in, to absorb it. Anyone else who needs to really breathe that in and absorb it, I want to create space because it's so easy to like hear it and let it go, but to really
Mm-hmm.
absorb your words are so powerful. So thank you. And where can people find you?
All right. So I think the easiest place to go is Dr. Di Fitness, which is my fitness page on Facebook. So it's Dr. Di, DRDI, then fitness, FITNESS. That's the easiest one that people can just remember.
Hmm.
So if you go there, you get links to my website, to Instagram, to all the different things, to the fitness accountability group that I have. I run a fitness accountability group for professional women, mostly physicians, dentists, vets in there, but there are other professional women in there as well. It's called Professional Women Getting Fit.
Nice.
How easy to remember.
Love that. Yeah.
It's a Facebook group, Professional Women Getting Fit. I do a bunch of workshops in there. That's one of the workshops, open house, Dr. Jillian was talking about earlier in our talk. So yeah, we have another open house actually coming up in April. We do one probably like every 4 to 6 weeks or so. So then you get to, you know, do some of this work during the open house, and you get to decide if you want to continue to work. We can do coaching together.
Fantastic. I'm going to make sure I share all of the links down below. And thank you, Dr. Di, Fit Boss Doc, for joining me today,
Oh, it's
sharing
good
your
to see you.
wisdom, your light, and you're changing both your life and the lives of so many. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
And thank everyone for being here. If you have questions, comments, reflections, make sure to share them down below. Until next time.